So, Resident Evil 9 is coming out in a few days, which means the internet is trying to do exactly what it always does, which is capitalize on the growing hype by finding clicks any way that it can. Why do you think I'm making this video? And that means posting some of the worst takes you've ever seen for engagement base. They're telling us that Resident Evil 6, a game which the entire internet agrees is the absolute worst in the mainline series. And really, when was the last time you saw the internet agree on anything?
No thanks, bro.
Is actually good? A classic, underappreciated at the time, and better than we all realize. We got caught up in the hype and negativity, never appreciating it for the masterpiece it really was. So in the year of our Lord 2026, I'm gonna dive back into the Leon campaign, something that I haven't touched since the game came out in 2012, to find out which side of this argument is really huffing all that copium. So, straight away, one of the main criticisms of Resident Evil 6 is thanks to its non-linear structure, the story doesn't really have a beginning or end. You just pick one of the 4 campaigns and watch the same story play out from different perspectives. This helps to fill in the gaps that naturally occur, as well as seeing events before and after the fact. But also means it often feels like a lot of stuff just happens, without any real weight being attached to those events. This is beautifully exemplified with the story just dropping you straight into a scene with Leon Minecrafting the President of the United States, who's also a zombie now. I played the Leon campaign first when I originally played this game, and I had no idea what was going on then. What? Nothing has really changed in the intervening 14 years, so at least we're recreating the authentic experience. And again, returns from Resident Evil 4 to tell Leon and Helena, Leon's new partner for the campaign, that a virus outbreak has taken place in Tall Oaks University, where El Presidente decided to give a commencement speech, as spreading fast throughout the city. Helena promises to give Leon a clue for who's responsible for the outbreak if he follows her to a nearby cathedral, which Leon curiously agrees to despite how woefully vague Helena is being about the whole exercise, proving once again that Leon's junk will take him to places that his brain would never go. First thing you'll notice about this game is that it is incredibly dark. So once we go on a rampage with a brightness slider, the level starts with some genuine atmosphere and tension, with you being forced to walk or progress slowly through several sections of the university while one of the staff looks for his daughter. He finds her, and a short time later, since this is a zombie game, she's already infected and ready to turn. Well, we help her out of there anyway, before nature takes its course and she succumbs to the virus. It's actually a touching scene. So kudos to the VAs who did a lot with not much to work with. From there on, she starts treating her dad like he's a salad bar, and the game kicks off proper. Ready and getting through the university and blowing literal chunks from Zambos like we're playing Call of Duty, which is a well-known fact by this point that Capcom was actively looking to emulate the success of. Now, before we go any further, I really do want to sing the game's praises on the presentation front. 14 years after release, this game still looks great. You might see a few low-resolution textures from time to time, but honestly, even running on a Series X, the PC version kept crashing on me. At 4K resolution, this game is a testament to the artists at Capcom. It's a showpiece that proves art and talent trump technology every time. Animations are top-notch, attention to detail is everywhere, and I give it an absolute chef's kiss without reservation. It's good stuff. It's also a good time to point out the weirdly soul-crushing difficulty of this section. This is not my first Resident Evil rodeo. Yet, somehow I was constantly running low on ammo and health, and headshots aren't gonna make things any easier for you since even with damage boosters equipped, the most basic zombies take 2 to 3 headshots to kill.
Now the main problem area is up here. All of this going on up here is what's causing me the most physical discomfort.
And health items were weirdly absent in my playthrough. The game does have a dynamic difficulty system much like Left 4 Dead's gameplay director, so your experience might differ. But for the number of times I died in this early section, I feel like the game could have been a little kinder unless its goal was to leave me resorting to harsh language on 1 HP. We escape the university and Leon immediately crashes the car because using contrivances to impede your protagonist's process is good writing. Honestly, it was around this point in the campaign that one word was already coming to mind: exhausting. Once the level is done setting the scene, this game is just pedal to the metal, balls to the wall action set pieces that do not stop and let you catch your breath. Get through the sewers and you're straight into dodging trains in the subway. Blast through those and you're into a city which is collapsing into an inferno of chaos around you. You're forced to defend one position after another from waves of enemies with increasing health pools and proclivities for absorbing bullets from your very limited arsenal. All the while remembering that this is supposed to be the most nostalgic of the 4 campaigns. Finally drag your carcass into the church for your first real moment of downtime, where the game briefly remembers it has Resident Evil somewhere in the title and decides to lob a few simple puzzles at you. They feel like the developers include them more out of obligation than anything else, given how easy they are to solve, but they're nice all the same. I especially appreciate the one involving the use of a laser scope on your pistol to light up braziers, with the clue being a dead Mark who almost figured it out. It's nice environmental storytelling. Of course, a church with a hidden passage that can only be accessed by lighting up a series of braziers with a laser scope is the most nonsensical video game logic ever. But James Sunderland once got a safe combination out of a wallet and a toilet, so I'm gonna let it slide. But once that's over, the game realizes your cortisol levels are starting to drop. So we're into the game's first real boss fight with a creature covered in so many holes it's either going to trigger your tryptophobia or unlock some uncomfortable desires that you didn't know you were harboring. Now, you could argue that we're just following the precedent set by a lot of Resident Evil 5's boss fights that felt way too bullet spongy, but I'd argue that those boss fights weren't fun either. So I guess we're at an impasse. By now, the game has settled into a pretty comfortable pace. Set piece, puzzle that a baby kid solves, and then repeat the loop. Though I do appreciate just adding a room for the sole purpose of flexing that your engine supports mirrored reflections 10 years before we tried ray tracing. Nice touch. There's some exposition that alludes to Ada's campaign while Helena keeps stringing Leon along with vague promises that the payoff for this quest is gonna justify the pain we've been through up to this point, which I am pressing X to doubt on so hard that I'm on my 4th controller. Keep making your way down far enough. Seriously, we're so far down into the mantle that I just saw Aaron Eckhart. Shoutouts to the 6 people that understood that reference. And you hit the game's next boss. Helena's twin? I'm bad with faces. Sister who's all juiced up on the C-virus. It's a multi-stage boss fight taking place between several arenas, but she's naked the whole time, and I don't know how YouTube feels about girls without their girly bits, so we're skipping it anyway. Once she's taking a dirt nap, Helena confesses that she's the one who helped National Security Director Simmons start the outbreak to kill the president and the entire population of Tall Oaks, because that big meanie Simmons was keeping her old sister Dearest hostage and experimenting on her if Helena didn't want to play genocidal ball. See, now we're just playing Dark Souls at this point. Descending your catacombs filled with traps, fire pits, and armored, no, I mean like yay old age knight armor, zombies, while the game has given up any pretense of being anything not derivative of more popular games by this point. I don't enjoy bashing Resident Evil. I absolutely adore the series right down to the marrow. Except for RE7, go ahead and hate me for that in the comments. But I'm calling it like I see it. Del Lago also makes a cameo here because did I mention that this was a nostalgia campaign? Popping up occasionally to remind the players that he's still around while you make your way from crankshaft to crankshaft. There's also a missed opportunity here for Leon to prove he can roundhouse a boulder, so I'm deducting at least 1 point from the final score for that tear. Platforming, swimming sections, running from Del Lago. It just goes on, and while I don't hate it, I mean, your game is just non-stop constant action. Without anything to contrast it or any sense of pacing, you wind up looking for not the next crazy, insane set piece, but for a moment of respite to catch your breath and stock up. Killing Del Lago takes place in a QTE, which was a bold choice given how that particular trend in gaming was well and truly on its way out by 2012. This by itself would be less of an issue if the quick times were well executed. But, well, I'm gonna let this one speak for itself.
Aim for the dynamite!
Yeah, you gotta shoot that barrel. But the game doesn't want to do you the courtesy of making sure your weapon is looted before the critical moment. So if you're stuck reloading, back to the retry screen by default. Nice work, guys. If we can manage to avoid drowning or being eaten, we're on to our next set piece, which is a plane filled with zombies because naturally the pilot was infected and setting a speedrun record for turning the rest of the passengers. I could go into detail here, how you need to lure him to the back of the plane. Shoutouts to My Car Magazine, before dumping him somewhere in rural China to make him their problem. But it's just more of the same. We're over 3 hours into this campaign, and the impetus to just keep hurling headfirst is draining my will to live. Not content with crashing in a car and a bus in a sealed campaign, Leon crashes a 747 into the exact place Jake and Sherry were holding up. I won't say anything bad about a Troy Baker jump scare because I could never be mad at him. And we take 5 from this absolute thrill ride to through hands with these snack. This was around the point in the story where the difficulty had actually inverted itself, and I had so many bullets, bombs, and heli items that we actually ran out of space in my inventory. So sending him to Pound Town wasn't exactly a challenge. The game's dynamic difficulty is like a drunk bartender sometimes. It either leaves you parched for 30 minutes or tries to drown you in a keg of 9mm. But that problem is quickly solved by being thrown into a key hut with the Raka Mangina France. It wouldn't be Resident Evil without an unkillable enemy there to ratchet up the tension, and you're locked in a small area with a discount regenerators until you can find 3 keys to escape. It's not as bad as it sounds thanks to the stockpile of resources that I had at my disposal. They were more of an irritation than any kind of serious threat. But in a transition that still leaves me baffled to this day, we used strength from a Chinese market to, let's see here. A hidden biological weapons lab that is guarded by the least effective security system. I call them Doombas, ever conceived by man. But let's be real, it's Resident Evil. And you didn't pay $60 for the plot to make sense.
In less than 5 minutes, we'll reach Vader's Death Star.
Leon and Chris battle to see who has the low testosterone and assert dominance of Rada. Or is she? Which is fine because apparently they know each other now even though they've never met in any of the games. Yes, I know it's hand-waved in the unlockable notes, you can put your keyboard down. And after that, the game realizes that we're hitting the 5-hour mark, and it's time to start tying up loose ends. So Simmons shows up to admit everything without any reason to beyond the fact that he's evil and this plot is not gonna resolve itself. He gets shot with the Turbo C virus. Because the G virus is for tourists, and we're all trained now because I have honestly abandoned even trying to reason where this game does what it does anymore. Simmons monologues some more before taking him to the worst transformer yet, and even though he's totally naked, he still gets to keep his flesh pants, but not without showing off a good amount of butt crack. If the midpoint of the game is Dark Souls, we're going full Uncharted here as we dive from one train to the next, watching Simmons do his best impression of an Animorph. Is that joke accurate? I never actually watched the show. This RE is run over by a speeding train, which will absolutely be the last we ever see of him. But the game's not done. Leon and Elena are still cavorting across China, trying to clear their names in the midst of another viral outbreak. Sincere is still the main suspects in the death of the president and all. I honestly can't tell you what this section is like because it's functionally identical to the start of the game. And if it wasn't for the change in wardrobe, I would genuinely have trouble telling which one was which. This is where I think the game really starts to lose most players. There is no raising the stakes in any meaningful way, no escalation of the narrative or secrets being revealed, and the knowledge that Leon and Helena are going to survive all of that because they've got main character plot armor that's stronger than any battle pass reward. You take a break from all the explosions by running away from a really big explosion before crashing a helicopter into a skyscraper because who needs coherence or pacing when you have explosions? Simmons is there to mean this because who honestly gives a fuck at this point? A transforms into a goddamn dinosaur. This is honestly either the most stupid or awesome thing in the entire game. And to this day, I keep vacillating between the two without making a decision. For some reason, I remember this fight being really hard on my first playthrough, but it was honestly a breeze this time around, provided you don't get eaten. And if you pump him full of enough vitamin lead, he will just despawn apparently, which will absolutely be the last we ever see of him. But things aren't done exploding yet. We have to save Ada, the real one. And Simmons is still alive because what am I even doing with my life at this point anyway? Climb some cables, do some QTEs, shoot him a few 100 times, and he finally goes down for the count. Consumed by flames in what will absolutely be the last time we ever— who am I even kidding at this point? Make it to the top of the building, and guess who is waiting for you? I know, you're shocked. But now he's a giant meat bug absorbing all the zombies around him, and it's your job to give him that hard goodbye one last time. We stick to the classic rules of Resident Evil boss fights. Shoot the glowing weak point for massive damage. And honestly, it's not actually terrible. As exhausted as I am of fighting Simmons by this stage, the fight just feels like it has a tangible sense of feedback and progression. Instead of holding down the fire button and waiting for him to go away, blow the limbs off, make him eat a lightning rod, repeat. It's a satisfying boss fight. Probably the best fight the whole game. Do not get me started on the weird newborn thingy boss fight in Chris's campaign. God, I hate that. And with that, it's done. He's dead. For realsies this time. But not before making a cool visual of the Umbrella logo because... reasons? Look, the Sully train left the station about 2,000 explosions back. It's a little late in the game to try to be clever or pithy. And that's it. Campaign's done. Plenty gets off scot-free because being responsible for the deaths of the president and 70,000 people is pretty forgivable when you think about it. And Leon gets to Orifam for a moment before reminding everyone that he's clueless when it comes to women and gesto bitches. So the status quo is maintained. So, were the critics wrong? Did we judge Resident Evil 6 too harshly? No, of course not. What are you, stupid? This game is terrible. I will say in its defense, it's a very polished kind of terrible. There is nothing, not one thing you can point to and say was badly made or poorly put together. You can bash the pacing, the story, the writing, the characters, and the gameplay all day long. Quality? No. Capcom poured all their effort into this one. It's just a shame that the end result was a game that nobody asked for or wanted. But you know how it goes from here. Capcom took the feedback on board and began their redemption arc a few years later. Now here we are in 2026, and they haven't really stopped releasing baggers, not you, Exoprimal, since. And if Resident Evil 6 was the price we had to pay to get to this point, that's not a bad deal when you're... Oh crap, I was wrong, Simmons isn't dead.